The sky above the royal city was always alive with strange colors. The two suns painted the horizon in shades of silver and gold. High towers of crystal stretched above the streets, glowing faintly with stored energy from the twin stars. The kingdom of Avaris was a place of beauty and strength, yet behind its beauty there was danger. Raiders from the far reaches of space often attacked its trade routes, seeking to steal technology and riches. In this time of unrest, a ship from Earth landed on the outer fields of the city. The people of Avaris had seen few humans before. The arrival of Aran, a young soldier chosen to represent Earth, was unusual. He was not the tallest among the warriors nor the strongest, but there was something steady in his eyes that marked him as different. His task was simple in words but heavy in meaning. He was to help the kingdom form new bonds with Earth, and at the same time he was placed under trial. His loyalty, courage, and wisdom would be tested in ways he did not yet understand. When Aaron stepped out of his ship, the guards of Avaris kept their distance. They whispered to each other in their own tongue, wondering if such a man could survive even a day in their world. Aaron stood straight, his uniform neat, his posture firm. He did not speak much, for he wished to show respect before words. He was guided into the great palace where the Queen of Avaris awaited. Queen Marielle sat upon a throne of carved stone and crystal. Her eyes were sharp but not unkind. Beside her stood her daughter, Princess Illyra. She was young, graceful, and dressed in flowing silver robes that shimmered like starlight. Illyra's gaze fell on Aaron with curiosity but also doubt. She had seen many warriors from across the stars, and most had failed to protect even themselves in times of true danger. Why would her mother trust this man from a distant world? "Aaron of Earth," the queen spoke in a clear voice that carried through the hall. "You have come to us in a time of need. The raiders test our borders each season. We require not only strong arms but loyal hearts. My daughter walks in danger each day, for she is the future of Avaris. From this day you shall serve as her protector. You will guard her life as if it were your own." Aaron bowed, placing his fist over his chest. "I accept, your majesty. I will protect the princess with all that I am." His voice was calm but deep within. He wondered if he could truly meet such high duty. Princess Illyra frowned slightly. She did not speak against her mother, but in her heart she felt uneasy. Could this human truly protect her when her own guards had failed so many times? Still, she said nothing and turned her face away. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. Only 3 days after Aaron took his post, the royal garden was struck by a sudden attack. The princess had gone there to walk among the flowers, guarded by Aaron and 2 palace guards. The air was warm and filled with the scent of rare blooms when a sharp sound cut through the peace. Explosions shook the far wall of the garden as metal drones stormed through the breach. They were small, fast, and armed with burning plasma. The palace guards drew their blades of light, but 2 of the drones struck them down quickly. Princess Illyra froze for a moment as fear gripped her. She had faced danger before, but this time she felt the strike was aimed only at her. Aaron did not hesitate. He pulled the princess behind a stone pillar and raised his weapon, a simple earth-made rifle. The drones were fast, and the rifle was not as advanced as Avaris weapons, but his aim was steady. One drone fell, then another. The others circled, trying to trap him. Aaron rolled across the ground, shielding Illyra with his own body as plasma fire scorched the stone. He shouted for her to stay down, then rushed forward to draw the drones away. Illyra could not believe what she saw. Most guards would have fled or tried to call for aid. Yet Aaron ran straight into danger, fighting not with fear but with clear purpose. He struck down another drone with a shot to its core, then grabbed a fallen guard's blade to face the last. The energy blade hummed in his hand as he slashed, cutting the machine in 2. The garden fell silent again. Smoke rose from the broken drones. Aaron stood with his chest heaving, blood from a cut on his arm dripping down, but his eyes stayed alert. He turned back to Illyra. "Are you harmed, princess?" She shook her head slowly. "No, I am safe." Her voice was soft, touched with surprise. For the first time, she saw not just a stranger from Earth, but a protector who truly placed her life before his own. News of the attack spread quickly through the palace. Queen Marielle listened to the report with a grave expression. Many of her own guards had failed in the past, but this human had stood firm. "Perhaps the stars have sent him to us for a reason," she said quietly to her council. For Aran, the days that followed were not easy. He walked beside the princess through crowded halls, through learning chambers, and during her visits to the city below. At every step, eyes followed him. Some nobles mocked him in whispers, calling him an outsider. Others watched with cautious interest, waiting to see if he would falter. Aaron did not answer the whispers. He simply stayed at his post, never straying far from the princess. Alira tested him with sharp words at times, still uncertain of his place. "You are far from home, Protector. Do you not long to return to your own people?" she asked one evening as they walked along the palace balcony. Aaron looked out at the stars. "Home is important, Princess, but a protector cannot think of himself before his duty. My task is to keep you safe. Until that task ends, I belong here." His words stirred something in her heart. She had known many who spoke of loyalty, yet few who lived it with such clarity. Slowly she began to trust him, though she did not say it aloud. Another test came during a council gathering where leaders from nearby worlds had assembled. One noble, Lord Varen, spoke harshly. "It is foolish for the princess to be guarded by a human. What strength has his kind shown compared to ours? This choice is an insult to the throne." His voice carried across the chamber, drawing many nods of agreement. Alira looked at Aaron, wondering how he would respond. He stood in silence, his face calm. When the queen asked if he had words, he bowed slightly. Strength is not always shown in words nor in birth. It is shown when danger comes and one does not run. I will not argue with Lord Varen. I will let my actions prove my worth. The council chamber fell quiet. Some still doubted him, but none could deny the courage of his answer. Even Princess Alira felt pride rise within her chest. That night, as the twin suns set and the city lights glowed, Alira walked alone in the palace garden once more. Aaron stood at a distance, ever watchful. She glanced back at him, her heart softer than before. Perhaps this protector was not here by chance. Perhaps fate had indeed chosen him. And so the story of Aaron and the princess began, with the first bond of trust born in fire and danger. The kingdom of Avaris had found its protector, though neither Aaron nor Alira yet knew how deeply his role would change both their lives and the fate of the stars themselves. The palace of Avaris was never quiet for long. Traders, nobles, soldiers, and scholars filled its halls each day. Messengers came and went with news from distant outposts, and guards moved with sharp discipline across the great courtyards. Amid all this, Aaron stayed close to Princess Alira, always ready, always watchful. The princess had begun to notice the strange difference between Aaron and the guards of her own world. He did not spend his free hours boasting of victories or speaking of noble houses. Instead, he kept to training, reading reports, or learning about the palace. When spoken to, he answered with few words, but they were words of weight. This quiet way made him difficult to judge. Some thought him dull, others thought him strong. Alira herself was unsure, though her trust in him had grown since the day he saved her life in the garden. Still, doubts lingered. She had lived her whole life surrounded by warriors of Avaris, trained in arts of combat far beyond human ways. Could a single man from Earth stand against threats that shook entire kingdoms? She kept this question close to her heart but did not speak it aloud. One morning, the queen summoned her daughter and Aaron to the council chamber. The room was wide and tall, lined with crystal pillars that caught the light of the suns. Nobles filled the chamber, their robes bright with colors of their houses. The queen sat on her throne, her expression calm yet firm. "We face troubled times," Queen Mariel said. "Raiders press harder against our borders. Our alliances weaken. To hold our strength, we must stand united." Yet whispers spread that my daughter's protector is unfit. Murmurs ran through the nobles. Aaron stood at Alira's side, silent. One man stepped forward. Lord Varen, the same noble who had spoken harshly in the last council, bowed slightly but spoke with sharp tone. "Your Majesty, I speak only for the safety of the realm. We honor your wisdom, yet it is a grave risk to place the life of the heir in hands of an outsider. He is human, from a distant world. His weapons are less than ours, his blood not royal, his power untested. Would you risk the future of Avaris for such a choice?" Others nodded, their faces grim. The queen raised her hand. "The protector has already saved my daughter's life once. Do not forget this," but Varen pressed on. "A single strike of luck does not prove his worth. Let there be a trial. Let him face danger before all so none may doubt. If he fails, then your daughter must be guarded by one of our own blood." The hall grew tense. Alira glanced at Aran, wondering if he would answer. He stepped forward slowly, bowed to the queen, then spoke. If there must be a trial, I will not refuse. Strength is shown not in words but in action. I will face what you set before me." The nobles whispered again, surprised at his calm voice. The queen studied him carefully, then nodded. "So be it. 3 days from now you will prove your worth in the trial grounds." That evening, Illyra found herself walking beside Aaron in the palace garden. The suns had set, leaving the skies painted in violet. For once she spoke openly. "You know this trial is not fair. They will choose something to humiliate you, to show that humans cannot stand against our people." Aaron looked at her calmly. "It does not matter if it is fair. My duty is not to win glory. It is to protect you. If I fail, I will still stand until I cannot. That is enough." Illyra was silent for a long moment. Then she said softly, "I do not wish to see you fail." Her words surprised even herself. She quickly turned away before he could answer. The day of the trial came swiftly. The trial grounds lay outside the palace, a wide arena of stone with high walls and seats for hundreds of nobles and guards. The queen herself took the highest seat with Illyra beside her. The people had gathered in large numbers, eager to see if the human could truly match warriors of Avares. Aaron entered the arena wearing simple armor given by the palace smiths. He carried only a shield and a short blade, both glowing faintly with stored energy. Across from him stood 3 warriors of noble blood. Chosen by Lord Varen, they were tall, strong, and armored in shining suits, each holding weapons of light. "This is no trial," Illyra whispered to her mother. "This is punishment." The queen did not answer. She only watched. The signal was given and the trial began. The 3 warriors moved as one, circling Aaron. Their speed was great, their blades flashing in the light. Aaron held his shield firm, blocking the first strike, then twisting to avoid another. He did not attack at once. Instead, he studied their movements, his eyes sharp and steady. The nobles shouted, some laughing as they saw the human forced backward. But slowly the battle shifted. Aaron began to counter, using not strength but timing. He struck when a warrior overreached, pushing him back. He rolled aside from heavy blows and let their speed carry them into each other. One warrior fell when Aaron slammed his shield into his chest and knocked him to the ground. Another stumbled as Aaron caught his blade on the edge of the shield and twisted it free. Gasps rose from the crowd. Only one remained standing, and he was breathing hard. The last warrior rushed forward in anger, swinging wildly. Aaron waited, his shield raised. At the perfect moment, he stepped aside and struck the warrior's arm, sending his blade clattering to the ground. Aaron held his own blade at the man's chest, then lowered it. The trial was over. The human had not only survived but stood victorious. The arena fell silent for a moment before cries of shock and awe filled the air. Even those who had doubted him could not deny the skill they had seen. From the high seat, Illyra felt pride rise within her chest. She could not stop her smile. Her protector had faced the trial with honor and won, but not all were pleased. Lord Varen's face darkened as he watched the crowd cheer. He whispered to those near him, his eyes filled with anger. That night, as the palace celebrated, Illyra found Aran standing alone on the balcony, looking at the stars. She approached him quietly. "You fought well today," she said. "You proved them wrong." Aaron shook his head. "I did not fight to prove them wrong. I fought because my duty demanded it. Still, I thank you." Illyra studied him. His arm was bruised, his armor scratched, yet his spirit seemed untouched. Slowly, she realized that her trust in him was no longer uncertain. He had shown her what true loyalty looked like. But even as peace settled for the moment, shadows moved in the halls of power. Lord Varen and his allies spoke in secret, angered by Aaron's victory. They began to plan not only against the human but against the throne itself. For Aaron, new trials were yet to come. His greatest battles were not against blades in the arena, but against plots and enemies who worked in silence. The trust he had begun to build with the princess would be tested again, and this time it would mean more than his own honor. It would mean the future of the kingdom itself. The palace of Avares had grown lively after Aran's victory in the trial. The people spoke of him in the markets, in the halls, and in the streets. Some called him the Earth Guardian, others called him the outsider who fights with honor. Children pointed to the stars at night, whispering stories of how a human had faced 3 noble warriors and stood unbeaten. Princess Illyra walked through the palace gardens with lighter steps. She remembered her doubt from the first days, but now those doubts had faded. Aaron had proven himself not once, but twice. First in the garden when he saved her from the drones, and then in the trial where he faced trained warriors. She no longer saw him as a stranger, but as a shield she could trust. Still, whispers remained among the nobles. Some were impressed, but others grew restless. For them, Aaron's victory was not a triumph, but a threat. It wounded their pride to see a human gain honor in the kingdom. Lord Varen, in particular, refused to remain silent. He met with other nobles in secret halls, speaking of how the queen had gone too far by trusting an outsider. But Queen Marielle was not blind. She knew of these whispers, though few dared speak them to her face. She watched Aaron carefully during those weeks, noting how he carried himself. He was never proud, never boastful. He trained, he listened, and he never strayed from his duty. She saw the change in her daughter, too. Elira, once doubtful and sharp with words, now looked at Aaron with softer eyes. Trust had taken root. It was during the Festival of Unity that everything changed. The festival was an old tradition of Avaris, held every decade when the twin suns aligned and cast a single long beam of light across the city. Banners were hung across towers. Musicians played in the streets, and people wore robes of white and gold. The queen held a grand gathering in the palace hall, inviting nobles, warriors, and envoys from allied worlds. The hall shone with light as crystals reflected the suns. Tables were filled with fruits, breads, and sweet drinks. Music filled the air, and dancers moved with graceful steps. At the center, Queen Marielle stood with her daughter, and beside them was Aran in the simple armor of a protector. All eyes turned when the queen raised her hand. The music slowed, and silence spread through the hall. "My people," Queen Marielle began, her voice firm yet warm, "we gather not only for the Festival of Unity, but to honor the courage that has guarded this throne. You all know the story of the attack in the garden. You have seen the trial with your own eyes. The protector I chose has proven his worth. He has shown loyalty, strength, and honor beyond doubt. For this he has earned not only my trust but my respect." Murmurs rose in the crowd. Many nodded, though some frowned. Lord Varen's face grew dark, but he stayed silent. The queen continued. "Yet a protector is more than a shield. He is one who shares the path of the future. My daughter, Princess Elira, is the heart of that future. It is my will that Aaron of Earth shall not only remain her protector, but also be named as her future husband." The hall erupted in shock. Some gasped, others shouted. The nobles exchanged furious whispers. Never in history had a human been named to join the royal line. Elira herself froze, her eyes wide. Her heart beat quickly, her breath caught. She turned to her mother in disbelief. Marriage? She had not expected this, not even imagined it. She respected Aaron, trusted him, but to hear such a declaration before the entire kingdom left her shaken. Aaron stood still, his face calm though his heart thundered inside his chest. He had sworn to be protector, not husband. He did not know what words to speak. Before all these nobles he could not refuse the queen, yet he feared what this path meant. Lord Varen stepped forward, unable to remain silent. "Your Majesty, this is madness. To bind the royal line with the blood of an outsider is an insult to every noble house. What of tradition? What of honor?" His voice carried across the hall, stirring anger among those who agreed with him. The queen raised her hand, silencing the hall once more. "Tradition must serve the future, not chain it. Aaron has already done more for this throne than many who claim noble blood. His courage has brought peace where fear once ruled. I will not ignore what the stars have placed before us. My word is final." Her voice left no room for argument. Even Varam bowed his head, though his eyes burned with fury. The music resumed, though the hall no longer felt the same. Nobles whispered behind fans, their eyes darting toward Aaron and Elira. Some smiled with curiosity, others frowned with anger. The festival had turned into something greater, something no one would forget. Later that evening, Elira found herself walking alone in the quiet garden. The stars were bright above, but her thoughts were tangled. She had trusted Aaron as her protector, yes, but marriage was different. Did her mother truly see something in him that she could not? Or was this fate pushing her toward a path she was not ready to walk? She heard footsteps and turned. Aaron stood at a distance, unsure if he should speak. "You should not be here," Elira said softly. "The garden is meant for peace, not confusion." Aaron lowered his head. "If I disturb your peace, I will leave." She shook her head. "No, stay." They stood in silence for a while, the sound of wind rustling through the leaves. Finally, Elira spoke. "Did you know of my mother's plan?" Aaron shook his head. "No. I came here to protect you, nothing more. What the queen declared today was not of my choice. Illyra studied him. And what do you feel about it? Aaron was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I feel the weight of it. My duty was clear before. Now it is heavier. I do not know what lies ahead, but I will not turn from the path your mother has set. Her heart softened at his words. He did not boast, did not pretend. He simply spoke with the same steady honesty she had come to know. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps her mother had seen more clearly than she had. But not all hearts in the palace were softening. In the shadows of the great halls, Lord Varen gathered his allies. The Queen has overstepped. If we allow this, the blood of humans will mix with our line. Our houses will lose all power. We must act before this union takes root. Plans of rebellion began to form in whispers and secret meetings. Weapons were smuggled into the city, and messages sent to raiders beyond the borders. The Queen's declaration had not only bound Aaron to the princess, but it also set fire to hidden anger. In the days that followed, Aaron felt the change. Guards looked at him differently, some with respect, others with coldness. Servants whispered when he passed. Even common people in the market stared longer than before, some bowing, others turning away. Illyra walked beside him, still thoughtful. Her feelings were not yet clear, but she no longer pushed him away. Instead, she began to ask questions about Earth, about his life, about what shaped him. She wanted to understand the man who might one day stand not only as her protector, but as her partner. And though Aaron answered simply, his words carried truth. On Earth, he said one evening, we are not all strong. But strength is not always of the body, it is of the heart. That is what my people try to remember. Illyra listened, her doubts slowly melting away. Perhaps she thought there was more strength in him than even he knew. But as the suns rose over Avarice, storm clouds gathered unseen. The Queen's bold decision had changed the path of the kingdom, and in the shadows rebellion stirred. Aaron and Illyra stood at the edge of a future neither of them had chosen, yet both would soon be forced to embrace. The days after the Queen's declaration were uneasy in the palace of Avarice. Outwardly, the city still shone with celebration from the Festival of Unity. Music and banners filled the streets, but beneath the joy, tension spread like hidden fire. The Queen's choice to bind her daughter's future with a Ron of Earth had shaken the noble houses. Some accepted it, some mocked it, and others began to plot. Lord Varen was the loudest voice of anger. Though he had bowed before the Queen's word, he had not forgotten the sting of defeat. He gathered those who shared his view, nobles who feared losing power if a human was joined to the royal line. In hidden chambers beneath his estate, he spoke to them in low tones. The Queen has blinded herself, he said. She calls it vision, but it is weakness. If this outsider is allowed to rise, our houses will fall into shadow. We must act before the bond between him and the princess grows stronger. Some nobles hesitated. He has won respect, one whispered. The people speak of his courage. To strike against him is to strike against the Queen herself. Varen's eyes burned. Then so be it. The throne must be protected even from the Queen's own mistakes. If words fail, we have other allies. By other allies, he meant the raiders. For years, the raiders of the Void had attacked Avarice, seeking to steal its wealth. Now, through secret messengers, Varen offered them more. He promised them access to the city in exchange for their aid in breaking the Queen's rule. While these plots unfolded in shadow, Aaron continued his duty. He remained near Princess Illyra each day, following her to council meetings, walks in the gardens, and lessons in diplomacy. He noticed the change in the way people looked at him. Before, most saw only an outsider. Now some bowed with respect, while others glared with hidden anger. Illyra also noticed. She had grown more thoughtful since her mother's declaration. She did not treat Aaron as she once had, with sharp words or doubt. Instead, she asked him about his world, his past, and his thoughts. One evening, they walked along the palace walls as the suns dipped low. Illyra looked across the city, where lamps glowed in the streets below. The people speak of you often, she said. Some with praise, others with hate. Does it trouble you? Aaron shook his head. It does not matter what they speak. My task remains the same. I will guard you. Illyra studied him. You always say the same thing. Duty, loyalty, protection. But what of you, Aaron? Do you not wish for something more? He paused, looking at the stars. What I wish is less important than what is needed. On Earth, we learn that those who take the burden of duty often give up their own wishes. That is the cost of service. His words lingered in Illyra's heart. She wondered if she was beginning to see not just a protector, but a man shaped by sacrifice. The storm broke one night when the rebellion began. It started with a sudden attack on the palace gates. Explosions shook the walls and shouts echoed through the halls. Guards rushed to their posts as shadows poured into the courtyard. Varine's allies had struck, aided by raiders armed with heavy weapons. Aaron pulled Elira away from her chambers just as the glass window shattered under fire. "Stay close," he said firmly, his hand steady on his blade. They ran through the halls, guarded by loyal soldiers. The palace shook with battle. Cries and steel clashed in the air. Smoke filled the chambers as parts of the outer walls fell. Elira's heart raced, but she kept her composure. "They aim for me," she said. "If they take me, the queen will have no strength to stand against them." Aaron nodded. "Then we make sure they do not." They reached the central courtyard where the battle raged fiercest. Loyal guards fought against rebels and raiders, but the enemy pressed hard. Aaron led Elira behind a line of stone pillars for cover, then joined the fight himself. He moved with precision, striking not with fury, but with focus. His shield blocked heavy blows, and his blade cut through gaps in enemy armor. More than once he placed himself between Elira and the enemy, pushing her back when she tried to step forward. But Elira was no helpless heir. She drew a slender blade of her own, its edge glowing faintly with crystal energy. Her training had not been wasted. She fought beside Aaron, her movements swift and graceful. The sight of princess and protector standing together gave courage to the loyal guards who rallied around them. As the battle grew, a cry rose above the chaos. Lord Varen himself stepped into the courtyard, clad in dark armor, his weapon humming with power. "The throne has lost its way," he shouted. "Stand with me, and Avaris will be free from weakness." Aaron stepped forward, his shield raised. "You call it weakness, but it is honor. You seek only power," Varen sneered. "And you, human, seek what? A throne not yours? A princess you cannot claim? You are nothing but a shadow." Their blades clashed with sparks. Varen was stronger, his strikes heavy, but Aaron was steady. He blocked, countered, and used timing rather than brute force. The duel raged across the courtyard as guards and raiders fought around them. Elira watched with fierce eyes, ready to strike if Varen turned toward her. She had once doubted Aaron, but now she felt no doubt at all. He was her protector, and together they would not fall. The battle turned when the queen herself appeared on the high balcony, her voice echoing across the courtyard. "People of Avaris," she cried, "stand for your throne, not for traitors." Her presence stirred the loyalists. They fought harder, pushing back the rebels. One by one, the raiders began to fall, their will breaking under the strength of the kingdom's unity. At last, Aaron struck Varen's weapon aside and held his blade at the noble's chest. "Yield," he commanded. Varen glared, his pride burning, but he saw his allies defeated. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Loyal guards seized him, dragging him away. The courtyard fell silent except for the heavy breathing of those who had fought. Smoke rose into the night, but the palace still stood. Elira turned to Aaron, her face pale but her eyes shining. "You stood with me," she said. "Not only as protector, but as partner." Aaron bowed his head. "I only did what I was sworn to do." But she shook her head. "No, you did more. You fought not just for duty, but for us. I see it now." The queen descended from the balcony, her robes flowing as she walked through the courtyard. She looked upon her daughter and Aaron with pride. This night has proven more than any trial. The bond between protector and princess is no longer questioned. It is written in blood and courage. The people of Avaris who stood there began to cheer, their voices rising above the smoke. The rebellion had been broken, and with it doubts began to fade. Yet Aaron felt no joy. He knew this was not the end. The raiders would not forget, and rebellion could rise again. Still, for the first time, he felt not only like an outsider doing his duty, but like a man standing where he belonged. That night, as the palace quieted, Elira stood beside him on the balcony once more. The stars above seemed brighter after the storm of battle. "Perhaps my mother was right," she said softly. "Perhaps the stars truly did send you to us." Aaron did not answer at once. He looked at her, then at the stars. "Whether the stars chose it or not, I will not turn away. I am yours to protect until the end." Elira smiled, not with doubt but with trust, and in that moment the bond between them grew stronger than words. But far beyond the borders of Avaris, the raider fleets gathered, angered by their defeat. The storm had been broken for now, but a greater war was rising, one that would test not only the strength of Protector and Princess, but the future of their entire kingdom. The city of Avaris had survived the rebellion, but peace did not last long. News traveled quickly across the stars, and the defeat of the raiders within the palace courtyard only angered their leaders. From hidden bases beyond the borders, fleets gathered like dark clouds before a storm. Their plan was no longer simple raiding. They sought to crush Avaris completely, to break the kingdom and prove their power. The Queen's Council warned her of the growing threat. Some urged her to surrender, others to seek allies among neighboring worlds. But the Queen stood firm. "We shall not bow to raiders. If war comes, we will meet it together." Aaron listened from his place near the throne. His duty was unchanged, yet he knew the burden now reached far beyond the walls of the palace. The bond between him and Princess Elira had grown stronger through trials, but now it would be tested against the largest storm of all. Elira sat beside her mother during the council. She was calm, though her eyes revealed the weight she carried. "The raiders believe us weak," she said. "They think betrayal within has broken us. We must show them they are wrong." Her words gave strength to many. Even those nobles who once doubted her now bowed their heads. The rebellion had taught them the cost of division. That night, Aaron walked alone across the palace gardens. The stars above were sharp and bright like watchers of fate. He thought of Earth, of the fields and skies he had once known, so different from this world of crystal towers and twin suns. He wondered if he would ever see it again. Yet deep within, he felt no regret. His path was here now. Elira found him there, her steps soft across the stone path. She stood beside him and looked at the same stars. "You are quiet," she said. "I am thinking of what is to come," Aaron replied. "This war will not be like the battles we faced. It will be greater, fiercer. I must be ready." She turned to him. "You are always ready. But remember this, you are not alone. This kingdom stands with you. I stand with you." Her words eased the weight in his heart. For the first time, he felt not only like a protector but like part of something larger. The storm came sooner than expected. One dawn, the sky above Avaris darkened with shadows as the raider fleet entered orbit. Their ships blotted out the rising sun and their weapons glowed with deadly light. The alarms of the city rang out and the people rushed to shelters as the palace prepared for siege. The Queen stood tall upon the balcony, her voice strong as she addressed her people. "The raiders come with fire and chains, but we will not yield. Avaris stands together. Our courage is our shield." The people answered with cheers, though fear trembled beneath their voices. Aaron readied himself with armor and shield. His blade, though forged on earth, had been strengthened with the crystal energy of Avaris glowing faintly in his hand. He strapped the shield to his arm and looked once more at Elira. "Stay behind me when the fighting begins." Elira shook her head. "No, I will fight at your side. The raiders want to take me, to break my mother's rule. If I hide, they win. If I stand, our people will see that hope does not fall." Aaron wanted to protest, but he saw the fire in her eyes. She was no longer only the princess he swore to protect. She was becoming a leader, one whose courage inspired even him. He nodded. "Then we stand together." The battle began with fire raining from the sky. The raider fleet launched their weapons, striking the city walls and towers. The defenses of Avaris lit up, shields flaring against the onslaught. Soldiers rushed to their stations. Archers aimed crystal bows and engines of war hummed to life. Soon the raiders landed in waves, dark armored figures storming the gates. The clash of steel and the cries of warriors filled the air. Aaron and Elira stood at the front lines leading the defenders. Aaron fought with steady strength, his shield blocking strikes and his blade answering with precision. Every movement was measured, not wasted. Around him guards rallied, their courage growing as they saw him unyielding. Elira fought beside him, her crystal blade glowing as she moved with speed and grace. She was not reckless. She stayed close, trusting Aaron's shield to cover her. Together they formed a bond in battle that no enemy could break. The raiders pressed harder, but the defenders held. The Queen herself rode into the courtyard on a white steed, raising her staff high. Light shone from its tip, striking down enemies and lifting the spirits of her soldiers. The sight of Queen, Princess, and Protector standing as one gave new life to the fight. Hours passed and still the battle raged. Fires burned in the city, smoke rising to the heavens. Yet the people of Avaris did not falter. For every wall that cracked, another line of defenders rose. At last, the raider commander stepped forward, a towering figure clad in black steel. His voice thundered across the field. "Surrender the princess and we shall spare your city," the queen answered from the walls. "You will not touch her. You will not touch Avaris." The commander laughed, lifting a massive blade. "Then your city burns," he charged, cutting a path through the defenders. None could stop his fury until he reached the steps where Illyra and Aaron stood. Aaron raised his shield, meeting the commander's strike. The force shook him to his core, but he held firm. Blow after blow fell, sparks flying as steel met steel. Aaron staggered under the power, but each time he rose again, standing before Illyra like an unbroken wall. Illyra fought beside him, striking when she could, her blade flashing against the commander's armor. Together they pressed him back, though his strength seemed endless. At last Aaron saw an opening. With a cry, he drove his blade into the gap beneath the commander's arm. The enemy roared, stumbling. Illyra struck next, her crystal blade piercing through his chest. The commander fell, his weapon crashing to the stone. A silence spread across the battlefield. The raiders, seeing their leader fall, faltered. The queen raised her staff once more. "Drive them out!" she cried. The defenders surged forward with renewed strength. The raiders broke, retreating toward their ships. One by one, the dark vessels lifted from the ground, fleeing back into the sky. The storm had passed. The city of Avaris stood in ruins in places, yet it still stood. Its people gathered in the courtyards, lifting their voices in victory. Illyra leaned on Aaron, weary but unbroken. "It is over," she whispered. Aaron nodded, though he knew battles would always return. Still, this war had been won, and Avaris was safe. The queen came to them, her eyes filled with pride. "This kingdom owes you both a debt beyond measure. You have proven that courage and unity can overcome even the darkest storm." She looked at Aaron with deep respect. "You came to us as an outsider, but you have become more than a protector. You are part of our future." The people began to chant, calling the names of Illyra and Aaron together. Their voices echoed across the city, filling the air with hope. That evening, when the fires were quenched and the wounded cared for, Illyra and Aaron stood once more on the palace balcony. The stars shone clear after the smoke of war. Illyra turned to him. "When my mother first declared you my protector, I doubted. When she later called you my husband, I did not understand. But now, after all we faced, I see the truth. You are not only my shield, you are my partner." Aaron's heart, so long bound by duty, felt something new. "I swore to protect you until the end," he said. "And now I swear to stand with you not only as guard but as equal." Their hands joined, and for the first time there was no barrier of doubt between them. The bond was sealed not only by the queen's will but by their own hearts. Far below, the people of Avaris looked up to the balcony, cheering for their princess and her protector. To them, it was more than victory in battle. It was a promise of a brighter future. Thus ended the final trial. The outsider had become the shield of the kingdom, the partner of the princess and the hope of the people. And though new challenges would one day come, the story of courage, loyalty, and love would guide Avaris for generations.